What are those opportunities for your marketing content? Because there is value to that. Everyone should have someone they like look up to and someone that they're mentoring.
Could be that the answer to that person's question, if you actually unpacked it for them and said
Yeah.
what you want is people that already know of you and are totally open to liking and trusting you.
Yeah.
Those are what referrals feel like.
Would breaks be? Where am I losing people? Like the amount of people that when they look at their marketing, they have no idea where in this is like a roadblock for them. But like that's as simple as this. So like this is why you have to keep working on it. What are the right ones for you and how are you going to optimize it to your business?
Welcome to the Leads Are Shit. This is a real estate magazine podcast, and I'm
You'll
here
get there.
with Andrew Foliato, the owner of Real Estate Magazine and the founder of Just Sell Homes, a real estate marketing company so that real estate agents can just sell homes. My name is
Taylor
Taylor,
is
and I'm a
shit.
real estate team leader in Edmonton, Alberta.
For those who don't know, and I guess no one but you and I would know this at him.
Yes, for people that aren't Andrew or Taylor.
Yeah. So everyone listening to this right now, we're having Mark Ferris on. So if you don't know Mark Ferris, he's awesome. Like he's one of those guys you have a conversation with him and right away you know he gets it. Like that was my impression the first time
Podcast
him and
with
I.
him that he made all about me.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he just gave me an hour of his time and talked about maybe some of the things he was thinking about when he was at a similar level to me
Yeah.
in my business.
Yeah.
Because now he's scaled. He runs a team out of Ontario, primarily from Florida.
Yeah. Now he has a big, like huge amount of team and managers here and do it. But like what really struck me is we did a feature on him in REM. That was a couple hour. Like so basically the way that we did features when we were doing them back then is I actually booked a 2 hour interview and then I basically pick apart your marketing using like our wheelhouse framework, what you were doing at the beginning and what you're doing now. So we kind of go over it twice to kind of give them the here's how I started, here's where I am now, what did I learn along the way. That was of all the features we did, and they were great. So I'm not saying this and other features weren't a great experience. He was the only one that asked us as many questions during it about our thoughts on like his business and
Hmm.
was like picking our brain as much or more than we were trying to pick his. So he's like, despite like his best year was 1,700 transactions, he's still trying to learn. So that was good.
That's an incredible mindset to be in. So we're going to
Yeah.
have Mark on later this month, but what was it? Just a couple of days ago, you were spending time with Phil M. Jones.
Yeah, that was awesome. So it was a mastermind for speakers. So it's called like the open book mastermind. So this is one where like even me as a speaker was borderline shouldn't have even been in that room. Like next to me was one person who was NFL player turned bobsled Olympian. On the other side of me was someone with like 100,000 followers on Instagram. And like you go around the room and it's people like that who are like built 7, 8 figure businesses, some of them. I think the neck closest to me in speaker fee was almost double my speaker fee. And that goes up to Phil, who's up to 100,000 a talk. So,
So when's he coming on the podcast?
so he charges for that stuff, and it's not uh,
So we're going to
it
pass
is a
around the hat.
discount to
You
his, yeah,
can you can
that would,
stay to the after party, and just so you know,
yeah,
there are people that are here right now. If you're catching this in
yeah,
the recording, there are some
yeah,
people that are in the Zoom right now
yeah,
that interact with us. So if you ever hear us referring to someone, it's not somebody who just walked in the room. It's often
yeah,
somebody who might be in a city near you. And
yeah,
for the people that do show up that aren't artificial intelligence, you guys can introduce yourselves in the chat. Please let us
yeah,
know where you're at
yeah,
and tell us something, maybe what's good. Uh,
yeah.
that's always uh, uh, that's always
It's
an
our
open
favorite part,
because so
engagement.
many things are different from market to market.
Yeah. Now, one thing that always strikes me every time I do an event for speakers is how similar they are to realtors. Like
Mm.
It's one out of all the because I like to go to non-industry events to like because I love taking ideas from other industries, seeing what they're doing, and how can I apply it. And like even down to the top people, how many talks they do is very similar to like what top realtors in terms of number of homes. What they get paid per talk is often very similar to a commission a lot of the time. And there's a big range in that, and there's big ranges in professionalism and the amount of care that goes into it. Like it's just like an insane level of difference, but like a chroma spectrum, but so many similarities to realtors, even down to like the loneliness they feel that like a solo operator has, right? And it's like how they promote themselves, the challenges when they think about social media, even though they're professional speakers, like you think that's someone who should be like adept at social media because essentially just go on and speak. They have the exact same challenges realtors do with like what to
Also,
say.
when you take a look at the speakers in general, it's almost like actors, where
Yeah.
some actors are stage actors, they're Broadway actors. The way that they emote is much larger and more dramatic than screen actors, which is a very different kind of crew. There is some that go back and forth between,
Yeah.
but I find that there's a lot of people that, if they're good on screen, sometimes they're shit on stage.
So what they also talked about in this one, which was the difference between like the expert and the performer, right? So like one of the interesting things is a couple of people were talking about how to increase their fee to get paid more. And the way that like the top people there who are making 30, 40, 50 grand for a 1 hour talk is like they go and commission on the topic that they're experts on, like actual research studies to help back up their points. So it's not just, all right, I'm going to go see what's out there, make my points, have my talk. So I'm going to go commission real studies on the topic and become the source of authority for this.
Hot.
And like they go out of their way, or like one that I like that Phil does is that he's looking at like he just calls it pegs on the board. He's like, what pegs do I want in my board? How can I get them? So like he wants to be on certain podcasts. So it's like, okay, how do I get there? And once he gets that, puts a new peg up that he wants. But he's like, essentially, a year from now, what do I want my bio to be able to read? All right, I'm gonna go get it. And it's just like similar to like a vision board, but it's more tactical. Um, there's one that I really like that he did, which I think is an interesting thing in real estate. And I talked about it in my newsletter that I wrote Tuesday. Is it happens with both realtors and speakers that not everyone, either because they don't want to or can't afford to, pay a full fee or what they consider their full fee. And his point is like there's a difference between they can't meet it to it's just cash they can give you. And people are saying like, okay, we will like he was saying, create a list of things that people can do for you if they want to negotiate down the price. In terms of like what, so if we're thinking of this as a realtor, what are non-cash things a seller could do for you to make it worth it to potentially take a little bit lower commission? So like one of the ideas I had would be like, what if the seller agreed to participate in like a full documentary film of the actual sale of the property that you could turn into like a 15, 20 minute case study documentary video that included their interviews along the way? If they could be included in photos that you could use and
Hmm.
different things like that. Like what are those opportunities for your marketing content? Because there is value to that. Is it worth $1,000, $5,000? Like depends on how you use it, what you do with it, the quality of it. But you can make arguments that there's a lot of other things you can get of value from sellers besides just cash.
It's an interesting way to word the question,
Yeah.
right? So when we think about the things that agents are open to exchanging value on, one of them is referrals.
Yeah.
So it could be a situation where if there is a referral, that could be a way that someone could set up a menu that would look like this.
Yep.
Another thing could be a social media post. So if they were open to doing a social media post when they listed their house and when they sold their house.
Or what
Uh,
if they organize that their work, like say they're an HR person at a major company? What if they got a lunch and learn set up with their other coworkers and you came in, brought them lunch and did a little like seller or buyer presentation to the whole staff at the company, right? Like there is value in something like that too. And so it's like, so basically the kind of the feedback from the mastermind was, is there's two parts to this list. And you should actually just like physically have a written out list you can hand them. There's the stuff that's always there. And then separately, it's can we customize some of this to the talk here? Like one was mentioning they spoke for a major airline and got 5 years of status and lounge access included in their fee.
hmm.
That's a nice bonus,
Hmm.
right? Like, or sometimes like for speakers different, it's like, okay, maybe like someone did a talk in Hawaii one time. Well, instead they can't match my whole fee, but I want you to fly my family out with me and 2 extra nights. So then they got a little family vacation at no cost out of that event. So it's like, what other, and I know it's easier to do this for speakers than it is for stuff like this. And then the other same side of that, which was interesting, which is determine what the amount you need every month is, like monetarily. A third of your time should go to just make sure that's going to be hit no matter what.
Hmm.
And then the rest of the time is what you spend trying to like build the next thing to get bigger. But it's like, okay, I know for us as a team, as a business to live, a third of my time should be spent just making sure that's going to happen every month. And so for like you, like what are those activities? What are those things that is going to make that happen? How can you ensure that that is there? So like that's probably prospecting, servicing your clients, like that type of stuff, the stuff that causes referrals and new leads to come in
Hmm.
should be a third
Hmm.
because then you're comfortable and it gives you extra freedom to go out and do the rest
Yep.
and build the next thing. Because he had an interesting way of putting it, which was you're always building two businesses, the one you have now and the one you want,
That's a good way to put that.
right? So it's like, okay, so what's the business you have now? You got to do that. But even if it's you're still selling houses, like the business hasn't changed, there's
Hmm.
probably a different way if it was an ideal world that you would have it set up. So it's you have to spend time doing that too. And that's where it's like put the pegs on the board of what that would look like so you can start working towards them.
Hmm.
It's interesting. But I do like the idea of like what are the things we could ask for sellers
Hmm.
and get from them because it makes it easier too. It's like an easier discussion. Be like, okay, yeah, no, if you were negotiating a commission, here's some things that you could do that are of value to me too.
And there are some people that set up their business for that anyway. So they do like a discount close as a method,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this might be a way to do that. The other
Yeah.
thing that you could do is price this in. So you could essentially charge more, but then by people that are willing to participate get the same amount,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like here's the price. And if you want to do this with me, this with me, this with me, this with me, here's the price.
Hmm.
And you can pick what those prices are because there's no standard. Um,
Got it.
yeah, that's good.
That's interesting.
Right.
So, mhm. Was there anything else that were like big takeaways as far as so they were talking about the things that are common with
Pages and pages and pages of notes.
well in those notes I'm wondering
Yeah.
about things about we were talking about the things that are applicable to realtors.
Yeah.
I imagine that they have their equivalent of a listing presentation.
So less a listing presentation than that is like their online profile. So that's where the big one is. So there's kind of two ways people get speakers. The no like well, there's more than two, but so there's speaker bureaus, whatever. They actually largely, most of the people were not fan of those, which is just like referral companies, I would guess, would be the equivalent for real estate. But the big one was referrals from other speakers, which I know to be true in my business. Like, number one source of gigs is like, or it happens to me a lot where people will come and be like, hey, we can't repeat speakers, but you were great. Who do you know that could also do it?
Hmm.
And that's an easy way to get them. And a lot of like, who do you know like you that could deliver? And so like that happens all the time, which is why I actually think Phil hosted this mastermind is to increase the amount of speakers that will refer. Um, that was my bet. Because
Hmm.
it's not that he was for his revenue level, it wasn't like a big movement maker on that side. So I think it was to increase his speaker referral and he enjoys it. Um, but so that was one. And then the other is like Google Ads. Like their actual big things like event planners go search for speakers on X topic, speakers for this. And they
Oh
just
man, how many event planners are in their first career and are relatively new?
yeah. And so a lot of them just Google and see
Hmm.
what shows up. And actually he had an interesting point which does relate to that a bit, which is like what um what is the is or sorry, it's everyone should have someone they like look up to and someone that they're mentoring. So you're always kind of like you're giving back on one end, but that person is also who you can send other business to, like overflow business, for
Hmm.
example. So like it could be someone on your team, but if you're a solo operator, it's like, okay, maybe these clients better serve that's like it's out of the area. I have a good roster of people to send to, but maybe eventually could come up and join the team. And then the other one, so I like what Phil says is what he looks up to would be like a Simon Sinek, because he's very happy to get booked as the poor man Simon Sinek. Like you can't
Hmm.
afford that guy's budget, but you can afford him. I was like, it's actually pretty smart. But it's that idea of like you always have that person you're going to for advice, but you also have someone under that you're pushing down to as well.
I
Um,
think that that's the way learning works too. So they always
yeah,
say that the teacher learns the most.
yeah,
I genuinely think the first time that I learn any concept, I only get about 40%. And then when I go and teach it to someone, like learn it from somebody just a couple steps ahead of you, and
yeah,
then pass it to somebody just a couple steps behind you. And in that exchange, you definitely learn like 60% as the teacher,
yeah,
and then you get the whole learning.
yeah.
But if you've only never learned it and never passed it to anybody else, I think that you're missing a large chunk.
He also had a good line for how I approach stuff. Like even AI is a good example of this, right? Like everyone's like, how do you stay on top of it? I'm like, I'm not the first one trying these things. I was like, I am almost never the first one to try something new. I let other people try it first, and I just jump on quickly when I see that it might be worth it. And he referred that he refers that as you're the second mouse. It's just the second mouse gets the cheese.
Hmm. I use that as well.
Yeah,
Early bird gets
it's a
the
good
worm,
line.
but the second mouse gets the cheese. I actually said that to
Yeah,
clients on the weekend because
and the third
the
mouse
property
starves.
that they liked got an offer.
Yeah,
And I'm like, listen, I think those people are going to pay more than you should if they buy it today. So we could go and compete with them and drive this up. And we're in luxury, so this is a small pond. It'll probably even affect the other property that you go to buy after if we
yeah.
inflate the price of this one. Or we could just wait and they take the trap and we get the cheese. And they laughed because their English is a second language, and they're like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
have something for everything." Because
I know that
I,
one.
yeah, so it
Yeah,
was pretty good. But I find that to be an
yeah,
effective way to communicate things. I wonder if anybody else has any others
yeah.
of
I love
like.
hearing those little sayings.
Have you ever read the book on those? There's Sticky Ideas. It's like the Heath brothers, I think.
I have it over there.
Yeah, and
Made to stick.
they talk about how with these made to stick these people like rhymes
Yeah,
there's a science to making these things, and you can see them like almost every language has a version of um don't give up what you have to go get something else.
yeah,
So like with us, it's the grass isn't always greener on the other side of the fence. In Polish, I believe it's don't trade a sparrow in your hand for a dove on the roof.
Bird in
Yeah,
hand is worth two in the bush.
that's another one that fits
Yeah.
that. But I
Yeah.
really like how that's how humans communicate, and that's like a big factor in marketing.
No, yeah. But yeah, no, the rhyming thing is real. Like, it's actually, there's studies around it of like, people are, I can't remember the exact number. So I'm not going to like pretend that 30% is correct here. But I feel like it was around that when I read it, but I have to go look it up. But it was essentially like people are 30% more likely to believe something if it rhymes. Like, it doesn't mean it's any way more true. They're just way more likely to believe it if it rhymes.
Well, I think those things that we classify under adages, like the
No.
examples we just gave, I think those sound like they're wise. Like
Yeah.
they've been refined down to a really deliverable content.
Yeah. As my kids would say, whoever smelt it dealt it.
Totally, right? It's funny when you have to get around those as well, where
Yeah.
like that stigmatizes what like these old adages are
Yeah.
sometimes entirely incorrect.
Oh yeah. Those
Mm.
I actually I do love when you come across those old things that are completely not even true. Um like, actually, you know, one of my favorite ones like that, the blood is thicker than water, is the exact opposite meaning of what it actually should be.
Tell me
It
more.
So it's meant for soldiers in the trenches who spilt blood together is
Mm.
thicker than the person you shared the water of the womb with.
Oh, the water with the womb. I see. Because most people, the way that they portray that saying is that your
The blood
family
in your
is more
veins.
important. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But no, that's not it at all. It's the people next to you in the trench that you spilled blood with and built that connection with. That's close. Like, those people coming out of that were closer with them than the family back home that they maybe didn't know as well because they hadn't
Totally
have that shared
understandable.
experience, which I just find it hilarious that like the exact point they're trying to make, that line is the exact opposite.
Okay, I love it when you can trace these things back. And there was
Yeah.
like in the time of where entrepreneurships were actual ships
Yeah.
and they were mostly going to trade goods with other countries, there was a problem, and it was that the sailors would go and get drunk, and then
Yeah.
they'd try to boast about the fact that they had higher quality goods on their ship. But some of the people in those pubs were pirates or were informants of pirates. And so you have a phrase that still exists today: loose lips sink ships, right? And the people at the table would also use these other adages and they'd say things like, does the cat have your tongue? Or the buddy beside you that was trying to caution you that was from the same ship crew you were, he might say, hey man, don't let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
Now, both of them were talking about the same cat. And what that is the cat of nine tails. It's a whip that leaves wounds as though you've been scratched by a cat.
Yeah.
And that was the punishment that you were often dealt by the ship's captain if you were the one who was talking smack in the pub. They would literally like kind of like bind your wrists
Yeah.
to each other around the mast, and then they'd get you. And I like how those adages kind of come together,
Yeah.
and
And then last.
yeah, and then they stick, right? But
Yeah.
that's also the history of tattoos. Often the people that had trouble with talking in the pub would get religious figures tattooed on their back. It's tough to whip Jesus.
It's fair. Can't do it, man. Like, I love all those little, like, I mean, I could go on historical random things like that. I also love the ones that you don't know if they're true or not, but they sound good.
There's
Like,
a phrase for that. It's called truthiness.
yeah.
Things that sound true whether or not they are.
Yeah, like one of my favorite ones like that because it sounds very true is, why are like rail lines the width that they are? And it's because it's the width of two horses' asses from Roman times when two horses would carry the um like like stuff for the armies in Rome when they were going around, and they built a lot of bridges. And so those bridges with the tunnels under, and they had to be just wide enough to fit two horses' asses going through. And those later became the bridges that railways had to go through. So they had to make it so it could fit that width and go through. Except there is no historical thing that actually proves that to be true. It's just like a story that's got out that that's why rail lines are the width they are. And it's one of those things that's very believable.
Exactly.
But I have never been able to confirm that it's true.
Mm.
But it's one of
Yeah,
those
you
things you
could
hear,
see
you're
how
like,
it happened, but it
yeah,
definitely is a truthiness thing.
yeah,
And I
definitely.
wasn't there, so I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing that kept coming out, which is one thing I've known for a long time, but I like that Phil and his team had a rule for it at the event, is they have a, or not in front in their entire business, which is no stock photos. It's just a hard rule. No stock photos for anything they do ever, which means they are constantly getting photos taken. They bring photographers out with them to different places, and it's less about like stage shots and just shots of action. So he's like, if you talk about like the example for speakers, like because he was talking about like my son, like, well, like I like to make people laugh and take notes, and like a big thing of my talks, the feedback is funny, relatable, and I got so many takeaways and notes. And he goes, how many photos do you have with you and audience laughing and taking notes? I
Mm.
was like, I have none. Because all pictures I have are from like the perspective of me on stage,
Hmm.
right? So, but basically it's like you need to get the audience shots too, ideally with you in them. You need over
Hmm.
the shoulder of you on stage with showing the audience. You need them actually taking photos of like the notepad as people are writing. Like you need all of that as part of it to kind of the show don't tell piece. You're like, yeah, so it's like free like showing photos of you delivering 5-star service,
Hmm.
right? Like doing all those little pieces that are out there showcasing what you do. So like on your site, there's never just a generic stock photo.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I know I got to do that. Like it's one of those things where I'm like, I got to start bringing photographers to events. I never wanted
Well, you
to.
never know. You could put that on the menu, like you were talking about,
Oh
of
yeah.
ways that people could create value for you.
Oh, I
Because
know that's
that is, how do you do this? And then the other thing is, how valuable is this?
yeah.
And, is this something that you can use in future marketing?
Yeah.
Is this something that you could use to shape your business and your competition?
Yeah. Do
Like
you know my
a powerful statement to say, did you notice that in all of our marketing material, there aren't any pictures of people that don't look like they live here? That's because all of these people are local. They're people
yeah,
that actually worked with us and they
yeah.
agreed
And people
to
might
be in these
recognize them.
photos.
And here's an interesting one too that came up, which was so because like speakers will still like I will do it too. But there's some events we'll still speak for free at. And there is a guy that we both know, like you would actually know who this guy is too, but I don't know if I'm supposed to share this part or not. He agreed to speak at an event for free, and he's like a 500,000 probably type of fee. But he had certain rules around it. So one, they could not advertise he would be at the event. All they could say was a special guest.
Hmm.
It had to be a fireside chat. He got to give the person chatting with him the list of the questions they were allowed, and his camera crew got priority on positioning in the room. So even if that meant they had to move someone's table, it didn't matter. Because essentially what he's saying is, well, he had to film YouTube content anyways. So now we just had YouTube content with an audience. So he
And it's him
basically,
getting the answers that he wants, like
the
getting to
question,
give the answers that he wants,
yeah,
because that's what you design the questions around.
yeah. So they can't leverage his name because they're not paying. But so it's basically for him, he got a free studio audience for his content.
But I gotta say, if you and I were putting a convention and the person's who I think it is, then we would probably be like, yeah, okay.
Oh, I would in a heartbeat do that.
Yeah,
Heartbeat. Like to me,
totally.
that'd be the greatest deal ever, and I would do it right away.
Hmm.
Um, Andrew, you could tell the story of how Aria landed Jay Leno. I don't actually. Oh, it's because he had never been to Banff before. I think it was that one.
Yep.
and he wanted to go. Actually, one cool thing with Jay Leno, by the way, which I just really appreciate, like you'd expect someone that big to like come with an entourage and people and like stuff. Like at one point, just like walked out the side door by himself, and like everyone's sitting down, everyone did. Everyone's like, wait, that he's just by himself walking around the room. And then sure enough, like the further he walks, just people start coming. And he just hung around, took pictures, chatted with people, and then it's like, oh, it's my time. And he walked up on stage,
Hmm.
did his thing. And then did you hear what happened at that event?
No.
This is actually really cool. So he like before, some of the people that came up and talked to him were the charity that was supporting, which is like the Alberta or Calgary Children's Hospital. I forget which. There's a CHEO or whatever it is in Calgary, the big children's hospital. Um, and he was talking to him, and I guess it moved him a little bit. And he's like, "All right, I've heard you guys have raised like 16,000 or something here. Here's what I'm gonna do for you guys. I'm just gonna do an impromptu auction right now, and whoever bids the most." You can personally and with three friends come to my garage and I'll tour you. I'll give you a tour of all my cars. You have to get yourself to LA, but you can come and we'll do it.
Wow.
And everyone, if you're a car person, you know exactly the value of that.
Or if you've ever met a car person, like
Yeah.
your three
So
friends would
start
probably
off
be.
bidding starts 1,000, 2,000. Actually, it started out low. It's like 500 and no one kind of bid at first.
Hmm.
And then it went 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, and then someone jumped it to 10, which
Hmm.
afterwards I talked to them and they were just doing it to drive the number up. They didn't want to get it. And Jay, in a moment of brilliance, and you could tell this wasn't the first time he ever did this, he just goes, stop. 10,000. If anyone else will match that, you can come too. However many of you want to match 10, you can all come with your own three.
Hmm.
And now it became this thing for people of it's not about winning a bid. It's about for $10,000, I can take three friends and go see Jay Leno's garage. 160 grand.
And so what Jay was thinking up in his hotel room was, I wonder if I could make 30 grand in the lounge.
Yeah. But like, think of how great that is, though, of like just the marketing side is if he had let that gone, probably would have capped at what, 2025?
Hmm.
Now he got 660. For
Yeah.
him, no work. Like he already tours his garage all the time. And in his actual way he worded it, he didn't say he would be there at that tour. It's just you could tour his garage in LA. So it's not even that big of a commitment on his end, too. I
Yeah.
would hope he's there, I'm sure, but you don't know for sure. It was if you went back and actually listened to his wording, the promise was not that he would personally tour. It was a tour of his garage at his house.
Either way, interesting to see how he was able to quickly
Yeah,
do the math and change it out, and whether or not he's
yeah.
done that before, and that's
Oh,
like his kind of deal.
you could tell by the way he did it, that was not his first time. He had pulled that move before and made money off it.
Hmm.
But it was a very interesting one where we're just like, stop. All right, everyone. Who do we got? And it was like from start to finish, it was like 5 minutes.
Hmm.
That was pretty good. Um, but yeah, and then yeah, like literally the Banff thing, they got him to speak because he had never been to Banff and he wanted to go. So I was like, yeah, I'm in.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
Well,
no,
I'm
for a
glad that you
lot
had
of
a good
people,
time at Phil M. Jones.
yep.
That's a pretty good one. Do
Yeah, no,
you? What's your when's your next trip?
Ireland,
Oh yeah,
August. But that's for a wedding. I'm not
yeah,
going
yeah.
for work. Yeah, like
Right.
next work trip. I think I'm actually done till the fall conference season now.
Hmm. Me
I
too.
think so. I think but so the fall conference season is funny. I have like a ton of potential events that are like holds, but not a lot that are confirmed yet. So
Yep.
I think I have to do one in Anaheim, potentially Nashville, Niagara, uh, do a couple Toronto ones, an Ottawa one, stuff like that.
Hmm.
I don't think I have
Just need
anything
to
out
have
west.
holds.
Actually, one
Right
might be
now,
in
I'm
Vancouver.
gonna. I'm waiting to be confirmed for Summit in Texas,
Yep.
and Then I think that that's probably the only thing I'm doing for speaking this year.
So we should just do
We shall
one.
see.
Just host our own then. Fuck it.
We should
We
talk
could
as we
do it.
go further.
Yeah.
Um, because doing these things and putting on events that are everybody's looking for where the new sizzle is,
Yeah.
and things change over time. Um, let's swing back to some of the things that we've been working on up until now, and then maybe do some updates. So
Yes.
we've been kind of guinea pigging my business, and so far, I can tell you, I made a whole bunch of changes to my business this year, and we just wrapped up our second quarter because we do quarters offset by a month forward.
Yep.
I want to do my planning before the market changes. So the market normally shifts for residential real estate at the end of June. So we do the planning at the beginning of June.
It's fair.
Uh, and with that, you know what? Pretty good by comparison to last year. We were within about 10% of where we were, and last year we were flying. So
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Let's
Mm,
say like overall market, is it up by similar amount or like for context, like what does that
No,
look
the
like?
market's actually not quite as exciting as it was last year as far as number of sales happening here in Edmonton.
Yeah.
But the hot spots are still pretty hot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that everybody knows. So brief recap is basically last year I was doing paid lead service through Ylopo. I was also mostly out of production, and that
Yeah.
was one of the things that I looked to change, which is what partially led me to talking to the folks here and you every week. But in I really felt as though business, like the way I was doing real estate, wasn't consistent with the outcomes that I wanted anymore.
Yeah.
So now we rebuilt the website. We started to do our marketing techniques. We're building an email list. We're doing a whole series of things, and we're doing them here. So anybody who wants to see and maybe do something similar or give us their great ideas, that's part of why we do this stuff out in the open. Now, you were referring to previously when you were analyzing people using the wheelhouse process. How how do you see the process now? Because that's changed.
Well, I just rebranded it essentially. We just got rid of the wheelhouse name. Now it's the ACE framework, which stands for Attract, Convert, Engage. At one point,
Uh-huh.
it was Attract, Connect, Engage, and then it just, yeah, it's gone through evolutions, but it's essentially the same. Where I think it's the core is different is we simplified it a lot for like ease of use for understanding of it. So it's like attract has three pillars, convert has three pillars, and engage has three pillars. And basically, it's how do you get more leads? How do you convert them? How do you service your existing clients to get more referrals?
Hmm.
To very much oversimplify, which separately take away from Monday. I now have the vision in my head for the book of the ACE framework.
Cool.
So I got to write that now.
It's
You
never
know,
a better
small
time to
thing,
write.
right? Yeah,
Hmm.
everyone wants more books, more books, more books. But I'm gonna write that this year. Um, then I've got to get it edited and get all that. It's not going to be like a big book. So to oversimplify, it's not trying to like write the big business book. It's like a tactical handbook you refer to that like my goal is like you keep it on your desk and you can refer to it for help whenever you
Yep.
need to.
I like books that are written like that. When you take a look at
Yeah.
one, Phil's book, Exactly What to Say in Real Estate, that he wrote with Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin. Um, that's a good reference book.
Which separately, the genius of that business model is exactly what to say the original book. He has like 50 versions of it now.
Yeah, it's based on the chicken soup for the soul
But a
approach.
lot of them are privately done. So like he did one
Ah,
for Volkswagen
but
and
it's only
it's
inside Volkswagen.
yeah. So like they bought X number of
Exactly what to
copies.
say in Volkswagen. You
Yeah.
cannot say anything else.
Yeah. And it's all over. So like he has a ton of those. He sold over 3 million copies now of his book. It's pretty so he like but because of how he's done the book it won't qualify for any bestsellers because like you have to put it as a hardcover first to like qualify, and he didn't do that. He just went straight to like a regular.
Yeah, but his strategy is different. He's not shooting for
Yeah.
that. He's shooting for
Yeah.
cash.
So it's not even that, it's just get it in the watch. But like the interesting one that he was saying, which makes sense when you actually think of the book. So he got called in by Audible because they wanted to talk to him. So the average book has a 20% listen rate, which means the average book that goes on for the amount of people who start it, it gets about listened to zero point 0.2 times. What do you think exactly what to say is?
More than that?
8.1.
Oh, wow. It's a pretty
Yeah,
strong re-listen score.
right? Like
Hmm.
most people don't even get to one full listen. His average was over 8.
It's the British accent,
Like
isn't it?
it's the tactical. So what is people keep referring to it, right?
Mm.
Like I literally just I have it sitting here because like there are once in a while I'm like, how should I respond to this? And I'll pull up which one would be good for this.
Hmm.
Um,
So when we're talking
Interesting.
about like making that A strategy very like tight, right? Let's go through some examples.
Yeah.
Um so where do you start to feel people's business out? Do you start at engage and work your way back to connect and
No,
attract, or do you start with attract?
I start with a track for the very marketing focused reason of that is the part that brings people in.
So that's
It,
where you know the conversation will end up. So why not lead with it?
and what most people care about is the sexy side of lead gen. When what actually wins business is like the conversion side.
An
But
example
most
of this is
agents,
what most people think is that they should post on Instagram.
yeah,
Whereas what they should actually do is comment on other people's posts on Instagram
and
because
then
the effect
DM
is better.
everyone. Yeah. But it's that just very simple um piece there of we have to bring it through. We have to like lead with that. And it's same with like yours, right? Like that's why it's such an effective thing of like find out what your home would sell for, get more money for your home. That's but like just saying here's what your home could sell for, the price. That's just like icing on a cupcake,
Hmm.
right? Like that's not the part that actually at the end of the day, it's the rest what you do to get it. It's the process. It's all that. So like we know for us, like attract matters, but what is a sustainable business is the convert and engage part.
Hmm.
But we have to typically use the attract to get people in because everyone wants more leads. So you open the door with that. And part of this, I think, is, and I admire the confidence, is that most people in the industry do believe if you can just get them on the phone, they can close it. Most people just genuinely believe that. I mean, the stats would show it's not true, but that's a separate discussion altogether.
Well,
Um,
from their anecdotal experience, what they have happen before their successful appointments is they talk to people on the phone.
yeah,
So then they believe that, oh, okay, well, if this happens before then, it obviously causes it.
yeah.
That's such a common human like misnomer that it has one of those sticky phrases that goes all the way back to a dead language. Ad hoc ergo propter hoc. Latin for
Oh yeah,
after
that one.
then, therefore, because of then.
Yeah,
And because we often confuse correlation with causation. So
yeah.
they think that that's what happens. But once you dig into it, what do you see?
So most it's, I mean, one, they just aren't doing a good job on the phone. Or the only time I find that that's actually true, where they will convert most to appointments, is because they only get referrals. That's a
Mm,
very different thing, right? Like, yeah, if
mhm.
you get people who are like picking up the phone and calling you, being like, I need to move, what's next? Of course, you're going to close that. Like, if you're not over 98% of those, there's a
Yeah,
much
we would
bigger
like to
problem
sell
here.
with you. Now
Yeah.
what?
What's the next step? You,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
can't
And they're
close
like, hey,
that,
Andrew, how do I get more of those? And
yeah,
it's like, you
yeah,
close more clients with an excellent service,
yeah.
right?
And
And
every lead
then,
source, it's a
but you would
different
also say that
percentage.
you engage, right?
Yeah. Well, the engage
So,
is once they're signed. So to me, that like the engage phase, they are a client now.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah, but I engage with my past clients in order to get repeat referral business.
yes. And that will drive more of those higher quality things.
And
Uh,
primarily, you're looking for referrals, which is what this person is anecdotally shooting for.
yeah,
So, like, it could be that the answer to that person's question, if you actually unpacked it for them and said,
yeah,
what you want is people that already know of you and are totally open to liking and trusting you.
yeah,
Those are what referrals feel like. So,
and
you might need to have more client events.
yeah. You know what I just realized with the constant evolution of the ACE framework? I might need to move it from a triangle back to a circle
Okay.
because the engage phase, you still need the attraction content that attracts the referrals and connects with the people being referred to you. Like it's circular,
Mm.
right? Like the stuff you're sending out still needs to resonate with that niche and connect with them. And it's a whole like it might be more of a spin-off, or maybe it's the infinity loop.
See, I always
Amanda's
see
sitting
it
here like, oh
like
God,
the
I don't like when
business
you
you
brainstorm
do.
like this.
Well, where you find people to work with is
Yeah.
predominantly either relationships or activities,
No.
right? And so, and then those activities could include marketing, but well, both the relationships and the activities include marketing. Like
No.
we've had new teammates start with us, and once they start to see pictures of somebody that the public starts to see pictures of someone that they know in a position that makes them credible, it really ignites things, right? Hey, Amanda. So,
He said hi.
yeah, Andrew's on headphones and his wife just walked by
Yeah.
for those people who are listening on audio. But anyway, so I really think that that might be where you want to talk about it is like there's two places where you can get business from.
No.
It's relationships and activities. And marketing bolsters both of these. And then it's going to be filtered through skill. So you say, hey, you get people on the phone with you and you convert. Well, you've proven that when people call you as referrals, you do convert.
Yeah.
But for that other group, let's measure that so that maybe you can
Yeah.
improve.
And it's eventually like if you don't have the baselines, you got to establish it. Like I worked with a team in the US that they knew for any new lead source, because they had all their numbers dialed in, it wouldn't be profitable if at minimum 30% of the leads they got on the phone with, based on their structure. So like if they got a new lead source, if they hit a 30% connection rate, they knew that long term that's a profitable thing.
Because they can optimize from there.
Yeah. But they needed at least 30, and ideally they were 50% of leads that came in, their team would connect with them at some point. Doesn't mean that the conversation would go well, but they knew if they could ideally hit at least a 50% connection rate with every lead, that they would be successful. But 30% was the minimum for being profitable for them.
Hmm.
But that is they tracked every new lead source, they looked at the trends, but they started with one lead source, nailed down the process, added the next one in, put that into the process, added the next one in. And now, like, what I really admired with that team when we were working with them, and this is where I find it's different than a lot of people in the industry, because now I have 10 years of running leads for people. And you're similar to him in this way of like, if a campaign doesn't work out the gate, it's not, oh, this campaign doesn't work, it's crap. It's all right, what do we need to adjust? What roadblocks are in the way? So like we were
Hmm.
doing one with him that led people from a Facebook ad to a 16 question survey. Yeah, that's a lot to fill out.
Yeah.
And the first round, we did it as a traffic ad, and we had 1,000 people go to the start of the survey. How many do you think finished the 16 question survey?
Oh, like 1%?
Zero.
Okay.
And the initial reaction for most people would be like, well, that's a failed campaign. We can't do that anymore. But we chatted about it and we realized, okay, what it is, like the user, like they're on Facebook scrolling around, you send them to a 16 question survey. That's just a lot of like for them to sit there and do when they weren't expecting to do it.
Hmm.
Like that's a long time commitment for some that they might have just been like in passing, yeah, oh, interesting. And like the browser you use, Facebook and Instagram, if anything, like you want to go open Facebook again and come back and finish it later, you can't. It's done. So it's like you have a one shot opportunity to get them to fill out a 16 question survey that asks them actually like
Mm.
questions about their home that they might not even in the moment have an answer to.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
so the approach lacks empathy
yeah, so what we
because it
switched it
should be
to,
more steps to get that information.
so what we actually did is we switched it to a lead ad, collected their name, email, and phone number, and now the ISAs calling weren't calling to convert a listing appointment, it was to walk them through the survey.
So
So they
good.
held their hand to get the survey done.
Hmm.
Now all of a sudden, they started getting conversions, and it was just okay. We got to objectively look at like where's the thing because the what the ad told us was 1,000 clicks were coming in at like 20 cents, and it's a seller focused campaign. So the interest is there, but none of them made it to the end of the next step, which means that's where the issue is. And it's okay, how do we remove that and fix
Hmm.
that part of the flow? Then when that's done, then you go to the next one. It's like when I was going back to the ACE framework, like when we're building that out, we look at, okay, let's start at a track with when we're evaluating someone. When I'm actually building out like a brand new one, like we have our 8-week program where we build out someone's entire thing. I start at the end and be like, okay, here's a signed client. And when I'm mapping it, I'm going back from there to the start. Then I'm coming back that way and thinking of every roadblock in the way along the way, and then how can we remove them?
Hmm.
And that's then you just relentlessly optimize that process.
Mm.
And just that's it's but I've actually this is just a takeaway for people watching. Map out your process for getting clients. Like just you like if you have a Mac, there's an app called Freeform. It's free on all Macs. You can literally map it out. Super simple. Like otherwise, there's a ton of online apps that you can do process mapping with. And if you really want to do like a low tech way, just use Canva. Um, it's
If you
not
have
like
Google Business Suite, Google Drawing.
yeah, anything. But really, all you want to do, and like you can even go simple, just post-it notes on your wall, right? Like just step one here, then just go. And just the clarity that that provides. And if you think of like the steps through there, where would breaks be? Where am I losing people? Like the amount of people that when they look at their marketing, they have no idea where in this is like a roadblock for them. And if you don't know that, how are you going to fix it? Right? So it's like
Yeah, well,
map it out.
normally the person that designs it looks at it and says this should work. And
Yeah.
sometimes someone else's perspective is what they need. And if that person's
And
perspective is experience like yours, whether you've seen a
yeah.
whole bunch of things, they might see something and be like, "Ah, that shouldn't be too much of an obstacle." And you're like,
Yeah.
"What are you talking about?"
And it's so different for different people, right? Like this is where it's not always the same. This is why you have to work on it. Is like I'll give you an example. We work with clients across the country. And we have learned that like there are people, if they have a certain type of like ethnic name, they have a lot harder time getting leads from their Facebook page. Like if we run Facebook ads with a certain demographic of a name,
Hmm.
it's our cost per lead is probably going to be 3 to 10 times
Is that because
what
that
a,
group's been present on Facebook?
I'm not 100% sure. It's just like the exact reason behind it. But all I know is anytime I see that demographic and name, I know we're going to have a 3 to 10 times cost per hire. But so the actual fix there is we just make an unbranded page. So we
Mm,
just take a page that just has like a generic, like for you, if you had that type of name, instead of being like Taylor Hack Realtor, it would just become like Edmonton Real Estate Info is the name of the page.
hmm.
We're still not hiding that you're there, like in the bio and everything else. It'd be all there, but just
Yeah,
the
but we can use AI
initial,
to make me look like Taylor Swift.
yeah, be great.
Mm.
All you need is just like a little hair on top, and then you're the spitting image.
We just need to move some hair.
Yeah, there,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
good. But like sometimes like those are the change, or like as an example. And this is what I see this a lot when it comes to social media. It's like, oh, they get a lot of attention because they're really good looking, man or woman. Which is true. You will get more impressions, more click-throughs, more leads, but conversion's harder for them because the people opting in aren't like they have different motives a lot of the time, right? So like their challenge isn't attention. It's not the impressions. It's not even people doing that initial put their hand out. Their problem is more in the filtering the serious people out.
Mm,
Someone else might not have that problem. Their problem might be I just can't get people to respond to me as easily, so they have to try a different approach. So
hmm.
it's like every single person, how they're responding. Like you and I even could put out the exact same video and have completely different results.
We were doing that in here the other day, where you were doing
Yeah,
your take on the video. We had people in the chat saying like, "Yep,
yeah,
Andrew is going to sell real estate, and Taylor's going to go and serve tables."
yeah. But like that's as simple as this. So like this is why you have to keep working on it. And it's like, yes, here's the rule of thumb of like we know this is what works. So like the framework is the framework of the pieces you need. You have to figure out for you what are the right pieces for it. Because a perfect marketing system has all nine, but it's like, or what are the right ones for you and how are you going to optimize it to your business? And then it's just testing. But at least if you have that framework, you know what you're testing and where to evaluate where the breakage is.
Hmm.
And that's where most people miss, is they
Well,
just don't think about it as a system.
let's keep talking about this as our episodes go because I think that, you exchange a lot of value with me by talking about tactics that I use in my business, and then roles reversed, I'm your part of your profile.
Yeah.
So talking to me about your ideas, the feedback might help, and we can determine what type of shape this should be in.
Yeah.
Like it's a
Agreed.
freaking arrow. No, I'm just and for the rest of us, folks, we are going to migrate. We are going to migrate from where we are here in the public facing part to a back room where we talk about things like other stuff that's not the
Yeah,
public
there you go.
stuff.
Yeah. This is where we're going to share the really good stuff, like that magic bullet, the silver
Mm.
bullet that's actually going to drive results for people. That's what's coming next. But
Or we're going
it's
to talk
only for
about
the,
sandwiches. You never know.
but
You
maybe
never know.
that's the silver bullet.
But you can join us here next Thursday. You can come
Yeah.
and join the Zoom, and you can send us information if there's things that you want us to talk about. We'd want to know a little bit more about that as well, as we go forward. But thanks for joining us this time. This is the Leads or Shit.
Yeah.
Stick around
And
if you're live, and outside of that, see you next time.